Buckle up, guys. Here we go. Dexter Resurrection is here, and it's all systems go as he arises like a icy phoenix from the snowy, cold forests of Iron Lake or something. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining me. This is Dissecting Dexter, the internet's longest-running Dexter podcast. For 15 years, I've been your host, Gareth Watkins, as always, coming to you from Yorkshire, England, and I'm really excited. Like Original Sin, this is a show we never thought would be a thing. We thought New Blood was it. The writers thought that was it, but Michael realised that he wasn't done with Dexter. God love him, and here we are. 2025 is a great year to be a Dexter fan, with 2 new shows, and of course that means a full-on year of podcasting, but who can mind when we're getting all this new Dexter goodness? Thank you for tuning in. If you're here listening for the first time, welcome. Thanks for checking me out, so to speak. I bring you review recaps with analysis and loads of discussion, spoiler-free. I have a thing where I love to know what makes characters tick, and maybe I'm guilty sometimes of overthinking. Anyone who listened to my coverage of Original Sin will know that. But I like to understand what motivates people, and if someone is doing bad stuff, I like to understand why. If you're new to the podcast, with this one, go back an episode and check out the last one and hear my conversation with actor Antari Guma and Bahom Winnie, who plays Blessing Kamara this season. Great guy, and we had a nice chat about his career and his character on Dexter. I hope to bring you more conversations like that in the future, so please watch this space. Got some irons in the fire, which I really hope will come off. If you like what you hear, please consider leaving me a review and 5-star rating on whichever podcast platform you use. And if you want to go the whole hog, maybe thinking about supporting me on Patreon. Patreon.com/dissectingdexter, where there are 3 tiers of support, and the proceeds go towards covering the podcast running costs. Rewards include mentions on the show, of course. You could also maybe have a video message from me and even an invite to be a guest on a future podcast. We had a Patreon special recently, breaking down the Resurrection trailer. My thanks go to everyone who supports me there, with extra special recognition to my higher tier supporters, Kelly, Ryan, Jennifer, Nick. There's mother ringing, sorry about that. You are live on Dissecting Dexter. Extra special recognition to my higher tier supporters, Kelly, Ryan, Jennifer, Nick and Phil. But you know I love you all. We will shortly be getting to my review of episode 1 of Resurrection, but I want to tell you what Dexter stuff I've been up to. This has been a crazy week for me, Dexter-wise. And work-wise, really. I got back from holiday with the family last weekend and hit the ground running at work with a very busy week there. I had the interview with Antari on Wednesday. We all had the premiere coverage to keep an eye on from New York. Of course, the first 2 episodes aired for everyone on the 11th. I did my review prep for the podcast, and yesterday I made the journey down from Yorkshire to London to attend the Dexter Experience, a pop-up immersive experience promoting the new season of Dexter Resurrection, featuring new dialogue from Michael C. Hall, written especially for the event. And I understand from Scott Reynolds that he had a large part to play in some of the creativity behind the event. Now, before Scott told me about it, I had no idea this event was coming until he messaged me to say that he was sorting me out an invitation, which was really kind of him and quite unexpected. Hi, Scott, if you're listening. Thanks again for doing that. Really appreciate it. Scott described it to me as part escape room, part experience, all Dexter, which sounded good. So, yesterday, my wife and I set off from Yorkshire on the train, which did not prove easy. Our connection was cancelled, and we would have missed our train to London from Doncaster if we hadn't made the decision to drive there. So we drove from East Yorkshire to Doncaster and left the car there and caught our train to King's Cross in London. Got there fine and wanted to get the underground train to Aldgate in East London, about a mile from the Experience where we'd booked a late lunch. Problem was that King's Cross tube station was closed for a fire alert, which turned out to be all okay in the end, luckily. But the tube station was closed at the time and we had to find the next nearest station, cue a very hot, brisk walk down Euston Road. A few people along the way noticing my Dexter t-shirt, which was nice. Anyway, we made it to our lunch venue. A little bit late, but we had a good feed and then made, it was just shy of a mile walk to Rivington Street near Shoreditch for the Dexter Experience. The entrance was amazing. It was located under a railway bridge, underneath the arches. Don't worry, I'm not going to sing. The wall, the brick wall was painted with a huge Dexter mural. It looked really cool. I've posted photos on my social media. You can find me on Twitter at Dissect Dexter, on Facebook or Instagram, search for Dissecting Dexter. We entered as part of a group of 12 people. The event was well run. The event staff were great. I think probably 12 people in a group was a few too many. One or two of the spaces got a bit crowded and it made it hard for everyone to have full participation in some of the puzzles. Sorry, just take a sip of tea. I'm talking too much. First room we go in, there's a screen. We'll sit down and we get a specially edited montage, footage from Dexter's life. The setup being that we're in Dexter's head. He's in the ER. His life flashing before his eyes, having been shot by Harrison. And we take a trip through some of his memories. In walks the first of several live actors. This one is younger Harry in uniform, reminding us of the code before leading us into a shipping container. Yes, that one. With blood pooling around our feet, it's dark. We hear little Brian and Dexter, three little pigs, the chainsaw revs up, blood-curdling screams from Laura. Very emotive, very atmospheric and effective. Harry opens the door and rescues us and shows us through to the next room where we are met with another key memory from Dexter's life. Each room on the Experience represents another iconic moment from Dexter's life. We're in the forensics lab in Miami Metro. An actor is there playing Tanya Martin. She was great, really looked the part, and had Sarah Michelle Gellar's cadence nailed. She was very good. This was the first of our puzzles. The setup was that the Bay Harbour Butcher's blood slides had been discovered, and we need to analyse them on a computer and match them to characteristics of missing persons listed on a board. Yes, I know Tanya wasn't involved in season 2. She wasn't there in Miami Metro when this happened in the show, but Dexter's voiceover jumps in and anticipates our confusion and says something along the lines of how memories can get jumbled up. Lots of photo ops here, lots of Easter eggs squirreled around the lab for sharp-eyed visitors to spot. A pile of Playboy magazines, I'm sure they didn't belong to Dexter. A post-it note from Masuka reminding him of a joke to tell Batista, something about, was it a horse and a nun? Shudder to think what that was. And lots more besides. In the next room, we were given the job of piecing together some mannequins on a mortuary table using the body parts contained in 2 large bins. The task, I think, was meant to be set in the back of Brian's ice truck. Find the right parts for your mannequin within the allocated time. Our team failed, but only just. But it was a scramble, rummaging through the large pile of plastic limbs. More Michael C. Hall voiceover through this scene. Really good. The next area is great and my favourite space. 2 divided locations. One is Nurse Mary's apartment, shrouded in plastic, all set for the kill, a kill table in the centre, and we could recreate the scene for some really cool photo opportunities. My wife seemed to take a little too much relish, even prodding me firmly in the middle of my forehead, Dexter style, as I'm restrained to the table and she's hovering a rather large knife over my chest. Some of the other guests noticed the forehead gesture and enjoyed that and picked up on it and replicated this themselves for their own photos. All really good fun. The other section here was the famous bathroom in Rita's house from the end of season 4. Blood everywhere and space in the tub to lie in it and pretend to be Rita. My wife has long blonde hair and fitted the bill perfectly for a very disturbing photo, which I gleefully sent to my mother-in-law with the message, "Sorry, only one of us is coming home tonight." Aren't I nice? The last indoor area was a hotel landing from the Empire Hotel in Resurrection, bringing us right up to the present. Another fun puzzle to solve with some UV illuminated clues. This particular puzzle encouraged everyone to work together, and this was fun. Finally, outside, there was an FBI agent standing over the white outline of a body. Dexter's famous red wool strung out to show the blood patterns. No puzzle specifically here to solve, but some fun banter with the actor, who was keen to learn some British swear words. A man next to us offered up the word crap, which was funny, not aiming too high. The agent wasn't impressed though, and he had to think of another, and things escalated immediately, and he went big. I mean, go big or go home, right? And he reached for the C-bomb, which made everyone laugh, although the agent pointed out that they have that one in America too. And that was it. Apart from Pappy's Bar, where we could enjoy a selection of Dexter-themed drinks, the barman all dressed up in Batista costume. For me, though, it wasn't over. I had been told by contacts at Paramount that I should expect to be approached by a videographer for an interview. Someone called Charlie, but I was surprised to meet a young lady called Amber from Paramount. She was from California. Amber sort of appeared in front of me saying, "Hi Gareth." She'd been sent a photo of me, so knew who to look out for. I don't know what photo she'd seen, I should have asked. Although my Dissecting Dexter t-shirt might have given me away too. We had a nice chat, and I was interviewed on camera talking about the podcast, my fandom, how I learned about the event, what I thought of the experience, favourite moments from the experience, and my thoughts on the first episodes of Dexter Resurrection. It was fun to do. It was a little pressured having to talk to camera and come up with some meaningful answers on the fly. For the podcast, I must confess I'm a lot more comfortable because I do a lot of prep. I have extensive notes, so it's not quite the same as just being asked a question on the spur of the moment in front of camera. So it's outside of my comfort zone, but it was fine. It was fine. I enjoyed it. It was, it was good. Really good. I'm not sure where the footage, I'm not sure where the footage will be used. If anyone spots me anywhere, please let me know. I'd love to see it. But it was nice feeling like a little bit of a Z-list celebrity, albeit for a few minutes. And afterwards, people were coming up and asking who I was and where I was from and where I got this Paramount tote bag from, because I got a little goodie bag with it as well. But that's essentially it. That was my visit to the Dexter Experience. We had a great day. My wife enjoyed it too. The experience was well worth checking out. I know from messages that a few of you got there too. I nearly got to meet up with listener Luke, but in the end, unfortunately, it didn't work out, which was a shame.
I might still be a monster, but I'm an evolving monster.
You're listening to Dissecting Dexter.
Okay, let's turn our attention to the new episodes. I'm splitting things with the podcast, so just covering episode 1 here and talking about episode 2 in the next one. Press reviews, critic reviews and viewer ratings have been really good, something that will seriously please the creators and Paramount. I understand from a recent interview, Clyde Phillips said that the future of the Trinity spin-off, he believes, depends on the success of Resurrection, so early signs are good for that. Apparently the scripts are all done, all written for a 10-episode show, and they're very pleased with what they've got, so who knows? The future may be looking quite rosy for a Trinity spin-off. But I've kept you waiting long enough. Back to Resurrection. Let's do this, shall we? Come on, let's go. Come with me now as we dissect some new Dexter. Dexter Resurrection, Season 1, Episode 1, A Beating Heart. Written by Clyde Phillips and Scott Reynolds. Original air date, the 11th of July 2025. Here we go. So here we go. We open in the emergency room. Dexter near death. They managed to save his life, but he's in a coma for 10 weeks. So given New Blood ended at Christmas time, this takes us to March, fitting in nicely with the actual time they shot a lot of the series in New York. We thought he was done after Harrison shot him, but as we talked about, the cold environment slowed his heartbeat and prevented more extreme blood loss. I suppose Angela found a pulse and put pressure on the wound or something to help too, but this isn't mentioned. It doesn't need to be. So, he's in hospital, close to Iron Lake. I love the way the episode title was superimposed above the building and blew away like it was drifting snow. Very creative. They did this with the title cards for New Blood. Nice touch. We waste no time in getting to the craziness, though. There were rumours of certain former adversaries returning, and in some bizarre coma dreams, Dexter meets Trinity, Miguel Prado, and a certain Sergeant Dokes, who yanks open the curtain with his much-memed catchphrase,
"Surprise, motherfucker!"
But Dexter has a chat with each person, reflecting on things, almost like Scrooge in A Christmas Carol. In fact, Dexter makes a remark himself later about how aren't there only meant to be 3 ghosts? Kind of a knowing line there. The whole sequence, though, is wonderfully crafted. Great production and sound design. Trinity taunts Dexter about how he thought he could have it all. We saw over the years how Dexter tried but failed dismally in the end in this regard. He could not have it all, and his attempts cost him dearly, and brought a huge cost to those who dared to care for him. This notion of not being able to maintain having a family and being a killer was something Dexter has already had to face up to. He tried again in New Blood, trying to be a father to Harrison, but got carried away by what he perceived was Harrison's own dark passenger and need to kill. He misjudged his son, who seemed to have a much more solid moral compass in the end. It was a bitter pill to take, and it nearly cost him his life. When Miguel shows up, there's a flash on Dexter's face like he's genuinely pleased to see him. They acknowledge the friendship they had going for a while. Miguel emphasises the good that comes from Dexter's actions, killing killers, saving potential future victims. This was something Dexter would say to help justify what he did, and remember how he used to fantasise about being praised and celebrated for it back in the day. But like Trinity, Miguel points out the price of doing what he did, the innocents who died. The episode juxtaposes father and son. Dexter in a hospital bed, Harrison getting out of bed to work as a bellboy in a New York hotel. I like the musical montage of him getting ready. Quick edits create a very snappy sequence. We see quite a few quick edits in these 2 episodes, and it helps make the show feel fast-paced. Harrison looks shifty coming out of the hotel room. Looks like he's spending the nights in unbooked hotel rooms. We meet a new character, Elsa. She and Harrison look to be friends, and we learn that he's passed his GED, which I'd not heard of before. But a quick Google tells me it stands for General Educational Development Test, like a general qualification in common school subjects. He sure did that fast. He hasn't been in New York for more than a few weeks, but I don't know, maybe it's possible. Anyway, he's happy that he doesn't feel like a high school dropout anymore. Elsa is played by actor Emilia Suarez, and from her IMDb page, this looks like the biggest role she's had so far. She's got a spark though, and Elsa comes across likeable. Sounds like she's a single mum and Harrison babysits for her. Could end up love interest, I'm guessing. We see Harrison starting work, stuffing his face like only a Morgan man can. We meet Stefan, Harrison's manager. Seems like a proper stuffy British man, a proper Jobsworth who looks like he enjoys giving the staff a hard time. We meet one of the hotel guests, Ryan, a wealthy guy who gives Harrison his fancy watch to get fixed. Looks like Harrison's established himself as an employee who can help guests get those extra things they need, which is good. He's doing a good job, it seems. Harrison helps a couple of guests with the elevator, but something intrudes into his mind. The space ices over, and the door opens to reveal a snowy forest. Like at Iron Lake, we hear a gunshot and see blood in the snow. Clearly, Harrison's still haunted by what happened. It's a trauma, and not the kind of thing he can seek professional help for. How can he tell a therapist he murdered his own father? At least that's what he thinks still happened. Understandable, he'd be having trouble moving on from it, and let's be honest, it's not been very long, has it? But perhaps that's why he's thrown himself into his work and making extra effort to work hard for guests, help occupy his mind. He bumps into a young female guest, Shauna, who will become important later.
Are you Dexter Morgan? It's me, Harrison.
Harrison.
You can't. Everyone close to you dies. That's why we're here.
You're listening to Dissecting Dexter.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Back with Dexter, and he's now visited by Harry, once again played by James Remar. Oh, it's good to see him again. Gives me a real sense of nostalgia for the original series. I'm sure it did you too. Dexter talks about how he thinks Harrison is better off without him. That was clearly something he was thinking at the end of New Blood. Dexter says Harry should have left him in the shipping container. He's feeling a bit sorry for himself. Harry points out all the people that Dexter saved, while Dexter says about all the good people who died. This is all clearly different parts of Dexter's mind processing all that's happened. He's second-guessing his life choices and doing a lot to affirm how things might be better if he went on alone. Something he tried to do at the end of Season 8, putting himself into exile. Now, I know that ending is unpopular with a lot of people, but you can understand why he'd do that after all that had happened. Dexter acknowledges that Harrison isn't really like him. They don't share the same darkness, and he was wrong to try to mould him into his image, which is really encouraging that he recognises that. Some of this conversation happens in a bloody shipping container, and we see young Dexter and Brian there, and it looks like they use the same young actors from Original Sin, which is a nice bit of connective tissue for the two series. It's really good, as I say, encouraging that Dexter's recognising these things. Hopefully, if and when they reunite, it will mean Dexter won't go merrily down the path of grooming Harrison again into becoming a serial killer. Cue Sergeant Dokes, and this is where Dexter makes his comment about the three ghosts that I mentioned earlier. It feels like the show recognises the craziness of this sequence, and that bringing back some of the beloved adversaries and Harry could be seen perhaps as fan service, especially right off the bat in episode 1. But I got a big kick out of this. In fact, I punched the air seeing Dokes. Eric King, bless him, he looks great. I want what he's having. He doesn't seem to have aged a bit. Amazingly, Dexter's mind manifests Dokes to remind him that deep down there is a kernel of good. I love that the show has reminded us of this. It's timely. You know that I was down on Dexter Morgan after New Blood, down on the character. He was deliberately painted as a villain by the writers. Clyde Phillips emphasised the fact in interviews that they wanted to remind us that Dexter is a villain. He's a murderer, and many of us wanted to see Dexter face some form of reckoning for all he'd done, although I think many meant for this to be in some legal capacity, and for a time there, briefly in New Blood, it seemed like that might be what would happen. But, of course, in true fight-or-flight mode, we saw Dexter would do whatever he could to get away. I accept that he didn't kill Logan on purpose. In fact, they reminded of this in the previously on at the beginning of this episode, and it softens my view to know that it was accidental. I realise I was perhaps overly hard on him, but he sure tried to groom his son into being a serial killer like him, and that was screwed up. But we've seen over the years that Dexter is capable of being a good guy. Doing anything completely selfless was incredibly rare, though. He usually acted according to his own agenda and treated people like Deb and Rita terribly because of it. But something Original Sin showed us was that he could do good. Doing the blood drive for Officer Sanders, saving Nikki from drowning rather than immediately pursuing Spencer. There is a nugget of selfless good in him. And perhaps he needs to rediscover it and be some form of father for Harrison. Hopefully that's going to be one of the central themes of Resurrection.
Something off about you, Morgan. I should have seen it before. The fake smile, the donuts. You don't even walk like a normal person. You glide like a fucking lizard on ice. It's all a fucking act. And I ain't buying it.
You're listening to Dissecting Dexter.
You are one creep, motherfucker.
So Dexter comes out of the coma. I enjoyed the Doctor. Fun part for the actor to play. He had some funny lines. Dexter learns what we already knew about Harrison leaving town. Jump back to New York and shit gets real. The rich guest Ryan is struggling with a girl who we recognised from earlier. It's Shauna. Ryan says his wife's had too much to drink, but Harrison knows this is a lie. I immediately thought Rohypnol, and this Ryan guy is a sexual predator scumbag, to put it politely. Harrison, you can see he knows what's going on and is wrestling with his conscience, whether to intervene or not. When challenged, Ryan tries to buy him off to look the other way. Good for Harrison, though, doing something selfless. He charges into the room and gets in the way. It soon turns violent, but good for Harrison, sticking up for the girl and showing his moral compass is pointing the right way. However, he sure pummels the hell out of Ryan's head with a cistern lid. Probably just red mist in the heat of the moment, but of course, given that it's Harrison, are we meant to wonder how much of a natural killer instinct he really has? What is startling is just how much he learned from Dexter in such a short space of time. He cleans up good, maybe too good, we later learn, and he wastes no time in dismembering the body just like his dad would. However, his disposal options were limited, and this might be his downfall as we later see the bags get discovered. Harrison proper vomits outside, though, full Technicolor yawn. Boo! And this seems to be a much more natural response to what happened. He's shaken up, as he should be. I think any decent man would feel anger towards a predator like Ryan. Harrison's reaction was maybe the morally correct one, although killing the bloke was a step too far within the bounds of the law. Ryan was the scum of the earth, no doubt, and he taunted Harrison about there being plenty more girls out there. He wasn't going to stop just because Harrison stepped in right now. There was a legal alternative for Harrison, but he snapped, and I think we can all understand that. I made a prediction ahead of the season that the body we saw Harrison with in the trailer was the victim of someone else, that Harrison himself wasn't the killer. Obviously, that was wrong, but I still don't think Harrison is a murderer, and certainly not about to follow in Dexter's footsteps. He didn't get any actual gratification from killing Ryan. although the world does have to endure one less disgusting scumbag, so some good has come from it. This Harrison we're seeing here, he seems older than the one we saw 10 weeks earlier in the show in New Blood. He seems more mature, less like a high school kid, and more like a young man. I suppose thinking you've killed your dad might cause someone to grow up real fast. We see Dexter getting some physio. Something we have to consider with him now is his maturing age. I mean, he's hardly old. Blimey, he's in the same decade as I am, but he's not as young as he used to be. And this will affect how quickly he heals, and moving forward, how physically well he can handle himself. He's still got skills, we know that, so he's not exactly past it. I don't think we have to worry about him too much. I think also that his age and the maturity that comes with it, I wonder if that will inform how he thinks now, how he deals with things, the decisions he makes moving forward. We'll see. At this point, Dexter makes a very profound and timely question.
Where the hell is Angela?
Yes, indeed. Where the hell is Angela? Why isn't Dexter handcuffed to the bed? Why isn't he under police guard? Why hasn't a police officer come to question him yet? An officer died. There'd be an investigation. I know 10 weeks have passed. If there was CCTV, they'd have seen exactly what happened in the cell when Dexter made his move to escape. But maybe there wasn't CCTV. This was a big issue, a big question for us before the season, how Dexter would be in a position to escape and not have the feds raining down on him. Cue Teddy.
Hey there. How you feeling?
Been better.
Those cuffs for me? It's from Angela. She left town with Audrey after, everything. Which makes me acting sheriff of Iron Lake. Angela was so sorry about mistakenly arresting you for the murder of Matt Caldwell. Obviously, it turned out his dad. Well, you know. Mm-hmm. She was even more sorry about shooting you. When she found that bullet hole in your cell, which proved that Logan had shot at you and you were just defending yourself, she felt like shit.
So, Angela skipped town with her daughter after what happened. How soon after, exactly, we don't know. Her note says, "We're even." What does this mean exactly? We know Dexter helped solve what happened to Angela's childhood friend, Iris. She was a victim of Kurt Caldwell, one of many. The search for Iris, we know, was a big driving force for Angela, why she joined the police. It was what motivated her. Now that was done, the book closed on that mystery. Had her enthusiasm gone? Was she devastated to discover there was a prolific serial killer operating right under her nose in Iron Lake and she had to be led to him? Did she feel her position was untenable? Logan had died on her watch, and also because she had put Dexter in the cell, creating that situation. We know it wasn't her fault, but still maybe she felt responsible. Teddy doesn't go into detail. Honestly, I think I'd have liked a bit more detail here. It's left us still to speculate a bit, and in the moment, it didn't make complete sense to me. I know, and I've admitted earlier, I'm guilty of overthinking, but I do a podcast. It's my job. I wondered if, behind the scenes, maybe actor Julia Jones was unavailable for Resurrection, but that her unavailability wasn't discovered until, or it wasn't a thing until after the scripts had been written and they had to find a way out. I do have some sympathy for the writers because when they wrote the New Blood finale, they thought that was the end. Suddenly the show was coming back and they had to find a way to back out of that. Our friend Nick put it well by saying this was always going to be a little messy and we can choose to get bogged down in it or allow a little wave of the hand and move on to enjoy the show. I'm sure there'll be a lot of feedback comments about this, and what we hear about Logan. So the suggestion is that Angela shot Dexter thinking he'd murdered Logan, but when they found the bullet hole in the cell, they knew Logan had shot at him, so they put it down as self-defense. Teddy seemed perfectly at ease with that explanation. I mean, we can choose to really pick this apart if we like, but I don't know how far I want to go myself. You'd imagine there'd be a full investigation into the death of an officer. Maybe ballistics should analyse the hole and work out where the gun was fired from. They'd put things together as best they could, and they'd certainly want to question Dexter when he woke up. Although this is Iron Lake, and you could argue resources and skill sets more limited than in the city, but the death of an officer is still a huge deal. And what motive would Logan have had to shoot Dexter anyway? I don't know. I can accept Angela felt her position was untenable, definitely. That she would resign, I think, would be expected in the circumstances. She was the Iron Lake Chief of Police. Serial killer Kurt Caldwell operating right under her nose for a long time. She framed that situation with Dexter that she'd wrongly shot a suspect. An officer was dead on her watch. She probably did feel genuine shame for all that. But she was right about Dexter being the Bay Harbor butcher. She wasn't certain, not 100% certain, but she was sure enough to call Batista. We learn later from Batista that she called him and retracted all her suspicions, said she was wrong. But why would she do that? She didn't seriously think that he was innocent of it all. No way. All those bodies that the Bay Harbor butcher had created. Did she think Dexter's survival from the bullet wound was a threat to her? I don't think so. She held the cards, I think. She said we're even, but surely it was enough for her just to let Harrison go to repay him for solving the mystery of Iris. Dexter might have still gone on to face justice as the Bay Harbor butcher. I don't know. It'll be interesting to hear what you guys think. I've got to accept what the show presents, and I don't want to. I don't want to get bogged down in overthinking this too much. So, the reunion, we wanted it so badly in New Blood, but we finally get it, and it's not the warm, cuddly reunion we might have once expected, laced with so much tension from both men.
Dexter, please let this be another hallucination. And nope. Wow. It's like seeing a ghost. I know what you mean. It's been a while, huh?
Part of Batista may be happy that his old friend isn't dead, but time has passed and he's had a lot of time to think about things. The call from Angela only stirred them up more. David Zayas' performance here is so good. Batista is older and wiser. He's a seasoned detective who's had his Dexter blinkers removed, and he watches Dexter here through new lenses. Dexter is sweating. You can see the beads of sweat on his forehead. Must be feeling the nerves. Batista asks pertinent questions. What happened to Deb? Why did Dexter disappear? Why a new identity? Dexter has fairly plausible answers though, but Batista knows much more than he's letting on. Dexter he does a great acting job, but so does Batista. His face says so much. Batista finds it weird that Angela retracted her accusations, but he can't let it go because he knows LaGuerta had the same suspicion. It's not looking good, is it? It's way too much of a coincidence to ignore, and this sets up a truly wonderful conflict for the season, and maybe beyond. It repositions Batista as an antagonist, but he's a character we all love. It's very new ground for the show, and one that gets me very excited for what's to come, more so than stuff we've been teased about Peter Dinklage and his gang of serial killers. These are two of our most beloved characters at odds on opposite sides of the law. And when Dexter later escapes because he thinks Harrison's in trouble, it looks terrible to Batista. He looks like a guilty man. At the end of their conversation, Batista turns away and his expression becomes stony-faced for a moment. He knows. I think there are further conversations between them in store for us down the line. Oh, another thing here. Batista announces that Dexter Morgan has been legally resurrected, the implication being that he could now be prosecuted for his crimes. It might also mean that he can access his old assets again, assuming they still exist, bank accounts and so on. I'm not sure. So much to talk about here. This is... Well, I realised writing my notes for this at this point that this is going to be a very long podcast if I put episodes 1 and 2 together. So this is the point at which I made a decision to split it. Back in New York, Ryan's body parts are discovered and we meet two new characters. Detective Olivia, played by Dominic Famusa, and Detective Claudette Wallace, played by Kadia Saraf. Sorry, I'm butchering the name. I'm good at that. Right away, we get the dynamic. He's the amenable, friendly, talkative one, while she's the super focused, hyper intelligent, bad attitude but brilliant investigator one. I loved her putting on her headphones, shutting out the outside noises and playing her concentration music. And I love that she's this uber serious, all business exterior, but when she wants to focus, she turns to the Bee Gees. Great stuff. Had my head bopping. There was some nice sound editing there in that sequence. Having identified Ryan, they head to the hotel where Harrison's a bit alarmed. Wallace is so good. She pieces it all together so fast. She has the sort of analytical skills at crime scenes that earned Dexter such a good reputation back in the day. She's a worthy adversary. Harrison, meanwhile, is being haunted by visions of Ryan. Great. More PTSD for him to deal with. I love the moment in the hospital when Dexter wakes up hearing the monitor flatline and panics. Sad. Very sad for the guy next door, but a funny moment of panic then relief. The death sets up Dexter being able to take the guy's car later on. He hears about body parts being found in bin bags in New York, and the MO sounds just like him, and he assumes that it's Harrison. And off he goes to New York in a dead man's truck. As I say, it looks terrible to Batista, running like that. It is the behaviour of a guilty man.
Hey, I'm Mark Pellegrino. I play Paul Bennett on Dexter, and you are listening to Dissecting Dexter with Gareth Watkins.
Change of gears as we meet Charlie, played by Uma Thurman. We know from the press that she's the head of security for Leon Prater, Peter Dinklage's character. Charlie watches a man leave his apartment. We don't see his face, but she breaks in, accompanied by the theme from Peaky Blinders, Red Right Hand by Nick Cave. She makes her move. It's a cool sequence. Lots of music cues in this show. Charlie has the calmness about her and shows some skills, searching the apartment, finding a collection of bloody driving licenses hidden away, trophies. She looks at them with disdain. Perhaps working for Prater is just a job, and she doesn't hold his assortment of killers in any kind of high regard. She leaves the man some money and an envelope. Invitation delivered, apparently. The episode ends with Dexter pulling up at the Empire Hotel and spots Harrison. He watches wistfully and feels a wave of unreleasable, unexpressible emotion.
My son, I could cry. Actually, I can't cry. Damn it.
Can he approach him? Maybe we don't have to wait too long for an answer. I'm softening a little on the Angela thing, partly because I saw these episodes nearly 2 weeks ago. I got the screeners ahead of my interview with Intari, and I've had plenty of time to think about it, and I've reached an understanding. But also, I had so much fun with this episode. Overall, I thought it was really tightly written, perfectly paced, switching effectively between Dexter and Harrison. It is bloody fantastic being back with these characters. I said on the podcast earlier this week that seeing Michael as Dexter again is just so good. It's like putting on your favourite jumper on a cold winter's day. My initial feeling was that this feels like a new show with familiar faces. There's so much fresh stuff here, and plot-wise, the possibilities are almost endless. Bringing Dexter back, putting him at odds with Batista, it sets up a delicious cat and mouse game. Dexter, meanwhile, rushing to Harrison but not daring to approach him. At this point, he doesn't know if Harrison's the killer or not, but the coincidence was just too much to ignore. And we've seen there is a seriously good investigator on the case. Dexter, meanwhile, still very much wondering whether Harrison's better off without him, and considering the possibility of being very alone for the rest of his life.
Listener feedback.
I'm going to cover the vast majority of your feedback after I talk about episode 2. But I did get an email from Mamoon who sent in feedback just for the first episode. So as that's relevant to this one, or only this one, I'm going to read it now. Mamoon says, "We are back, baby. I want to start the email with my thoughts by saying I know there are going to be a lot of viewers emailing and talking about the Angela and Dexter stuff, whether it was done right or wrong, but I don't really care about it, as whatever the writers did would have been controversial either way, and we won't even remember this stuff by the end of the season. What matters is if the season itself is good or not." Nice sentiments, Mamoon. Who goes on to say, Angel versus Dexter. We got what we wanted. I hope they don't F it up. This is what we should have gotten in New Blood, but I am happy we got it now. How do you feel about them showing the clues and mistakes Harrison made? Like showing the drop of blood on the ceiling, detective finding other garbage bags by the way Harrison tied them, and her asking for his name from the manager. I feel like after seeing that, I know exactly how the detective will get to Harrison. She will see the drop of blood on the ceiling and find out it's the blood of the victim, look around and see the garbage bags tied the same way as in the dumpster, ask someone who ties them like that and get to Harrison, and then Dexter will try to protect him. Yeah, good theory, Mamoon. I have a feeling we won't need to wait too long to find out the answer to that one. Clearly, Harrison is not the neat monster that his father is, and it stands to reason that he would go some way to emulate his MO, but not exactly. So, yeah, I think it would be remiss if he was shown to be absolutely perfect, like his father, and I think he needed to make some mistakes. Mamoon also says, I love the small nod to the original series when the serial killer messenger opened the air conditioning vent to try to find the killer's trophies, like the way Dexter used to hide them. Yeah, thanks, Mamoon. Thanks for that email. That was a nice nod. I suspect it was, it was a nice reference to the old series and where Dexter used to hide his slides. If you want to send in any feedback to me, you guys can. It's dissectingdexter@gmail.com, and you can find me on social media. Twitter @DissectDexter. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook and Blue Sky, Dissecting Dexter. Alright, I'm going to leave this here because there's much more in episode 2 and the plot moves on at a pace and we're going to have lots to talk about, and I'll also go through all your feedback and voicemails. There's still time to send anything in. You know where to get in touch with me. Thank you so much for listening, everyone, and come back for episode 2, please. Cheers. Bye for now.